Many of my conversations focus on how coaches and therapists apply the Enneagram to support their clients. Today's conversation is a little different, and it's so very beautiful and such an important topic for any healing practitioner. So I hope you listen through to the end because we're talking about how we can use the Enneagram to do our own inner work and how we need to be mindful of how our ego shows up in our client space. If you're new here, welcome to Healing with the Enneagram. I'm Samantha Mackay, a certified Enneagram coach, and I talk to Enneagram practitioners about how they incorporate the Enneagram into their healing work. Today, I'm chatting with Anna Fra, a sexual six and shiatsu practitioner in London. We met many years ago in one of my CP Enneagram classes. She's also studied with Marion Gilbert, the somatic Enneagram, and has been an active participant in a Gurdjieff group for 3 years. If you haven't heard of George Gurdjieff before, he was a spiritual teacher who used physical movements or dances to help people become more conscious and present and see their ego at work in the moment as it was arising. This is also known as fourth way inner work, and these groups have existed for over 100 years in various sort of forms. Now, Anna and I are both head types, so we talk about the need for knowing and to demonstrate our intelligence in the client space, which heart and body types will experience differently. But I think this conversation will be useful for any Enneagram type in a professional healing role to start thinking about how does our ego show up in that space. So enjoy. Today, I'm talking with Anna Fra about healing the body with the Enneagram. And she's a shiatsu practitioner and has been for 25 years. And her focus has really been how to, as a practitioner, does she get out of her head and into the body, which I love because as a head type, you're a sexual six. It can be really hard not to get caught up in having the knowledge and how to get into the body. And I love that you just naturally chose a profession that was so body based and that being so part of your work. So, yeah, thanks for joining me for this conversation today.
Oh, thank you, Samantha. Thanks for inviting me.
So, you've studied the Enneagram from a range of perspectives. When you started to understand that you're a six, how did that shape how your work as a massage therapist, as a shiatsu practitioner?
Mm. It has taken a long time. I've been for a head type, I've been a slow learner, really. And and when you think you got it, then you find something else, and you find something else. So it really is a process. So at first, it was all about the excitement of the new ideas. It was all about that, and I wanted to know everybody's types, and I wanted to type every single client I saw, and every single person. So it was very exciting, but from a kind of head point of view. So it's only been through doing more practice, more actual practice, through my Gurdjieff work, and through doing things more in person rather than just reading and me thinking, that I have been able to drop more into my body and to let go of the knowing all, because it's almost like the safety for me comes from knowing. I mean, that's there because I still think that is where reality lies, knowing and understanding.
Mm.
Um, but I'm kind of starting to trust more that when I'm with a client, the answers are in me being more present rather than in me knowing everything. But
Mm.
it's a bit of letting go of that.
And what have you noticed as you've started to slow down and probably stretch out to your nine arrow a little bit more?
Mm.
As you do your work with clients, how have you noticed your internal world sort of start to change or shift? What did you worry about more in the earlier sort of years that you don't worry about as much about now?
Mm. I think I did worry about knowing everything.
Mm.
I wanted to know everything there was to know about the Enneagram. And now I think I'm worried more that I'm getting old and I wish I'd done this before. So there is a kind of remorse, as we say in the Gurdjieff work, rather than regret, that I've not done this before and I've taken such a long time and I procrastinated a long,
Mm.
for too long, really. So I'm trying my best now to be as present as I can. Not sure if I
Mm.
answered the question too.
Well, one thing you mentioned when we were talking earlier was how earlier on you were very worried about using the right meridian and
Mhm.
the right aspect and knowing the exact right piece of work to do with someone's body.
Yeah,
And that's lessened over time.
yes, that was giving me a lot of anxiety actually, because I thought that I wasn't doing a proper session if I didn't know all the answers to what this person was bringing me. So now I'm more able to understand that people are very complex, and I cannot, with my little head, understand everything what is to know about that person.
Mm,
So I think I'm less anxious. I'm less anxious, which I think for a six is a good thing when I'm with a client, when I do the session. I still feel like, I'm not good enough, and what do I have to offer? And I don't know everything. So that's still kind of a little bit in the background, but not so much on the foreground as
mm.
it used to be before.
And it's interesting that the style of massage that you chose has a lot of knowledge behind it, not just the physical body, but also the all the
Yes.
principles of traditional Chinese medicine. And there's a lot there. I know it to some extent. And I know from my own clients that sometimes you do get caught up in there's a certain responsibility from knowing the
Mm.
right thing or using the right tool or approach that can feel very heavy.
Yes, yes. Yeah. Yeah, but I think I do have a lot of pride in that. I think a lot of the pride lies in thinking that I can understand everything and I can know everything, and that one day I will. Um, so I think, but also yes, and I chose shiatsu because of that, because of Chinese medicine, because of the actual theory.
Ah,
So there
interesting.
you are. Some people say, "Oh, head tap doing massage. How does that happen?" But
Mm,
yeah, then if you dig a little bit, you always see the type.
the connections are always there.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, even by having colleagues who are not head types and see how they do the techniques, how they work with the body, it's been great as well for me, and receive shiatsu from people who are like one of my colleagues, Francis Nate, and she does shiatsu in a completely different way to me, and she's very
Mm,
confident, and she's given me a lot of confidence as well. So it's yeah, you find your type with anything you do, and
mm,
so that's been great for me, and hopefully that will reflect in a better quality of my work.
mm. Have you noticed any differences in your longer term clients about how they might experience a session differently from when you are more in your head versus when you're more coming from a place of presence or in your body?
Yeah, I'm not sure if I can answer that question because that is them. I mean, sometimes I think I'm very connected and I don't hear anything feedback wise. And
Mm.
sometimes I think I'm not so connected and the person feels so. It is an interaction. I wish it was like that, I wish it was so straightforward and
That there was more feedback. I know it'd be really interesting, wouldn't it, to have that,
yeah.
to sense what that would be like. And so when we think about doing more healing work with the body and healing into the body, how do you find the Enneagram helps not just you as a practitioner, but more generally?
I mean, often, as I said, I have to pull myself back from the head down. And so the attention has to go in my body. So the way we do things, both with Marion, with the Gurdjieffians, is always we have to bring the attention back to to my body, to be
Mm,
in contact with your body, with the body of with the person, the whole person of my client who is there and is in literally my hands. I
mm.
have to be in contact with myself. And so
How do
that
you
is
do that? What's your approach to doing that?
my
Ego?
attention back to my abdomen,
Hmm.
usually, or to my feet. But often when I'm with clients, my attention goes back to my abdomen.
Mm,
Yeah, I find that if my attention goes to my hands as well, actually, the hands, but it helps me more to anchor myself more when I feel, my attention is here. And then I can do a better session. Then I can actually be more in contact with myself and therefore with the other person. If I'm not in contact with myself, if I lose that thread, that the presence, then I can't really. be in touch or be in full presence for the other person.
I find it interesting in terms about coming from the gut or the abdomen as a way to center, as almost opposed. It's not that the hands and the feet are bad, but they're just not as effective when it comes to connecting and working with another person's body. I often connect in through my feet to help me ground myself.
Yeah.
So, and I hadn't necessarily thought about using the abdomen as a way to do
Mm.
that.
Mm. I mean, the whole thing is when I was studying shiatsu, is that we, the teachers at the time, and it was like a mantra to say we have to come from the hara being the Japanese word for the
Mm,
abdomen, and but it's also an energetic thing. It's not just the physical body. So that was the mantra: come from the hara, come from the hara, come from the hara. And it's almost like I had to go and do 20 years of work to actually understand what coming from the hara is, because again I wanted to conceptualize coming from the hara, but I couldn't. You have to feel it, you have to be
mm.
there. That has to be the center of your gravity, um, to be able to connect more.
What helped you shift from the conceptualization to the actual embodying and being in the hara and being in that center? Because I know it takes both a long time and then sometimes those shifts happen sort of very quickly. Like
Mm.
I'm wondering if there was a moment that you really was able to make that shift or notice
Mm.
that change for yourself.
I think there's been a few kind of slides, I don't know, slide steps or however you want to call it.
Yeah.
Slides, because I feel like I slide it down in a way. Uh, because I have to first be in touch with my pride. And my pride is a lot to do with my intellect.
Mm-hmm.
So although yes, six are not supposed to be the most proud, well, I can only speak for myself anyway. That was very, very powerful for me to actually really be in touch with my pride. And that was through practices. One of the things that put me more in touch with my pride was my work with the Gurdjieff work. I mean, it's still ongoing, of course, it's only 3 years I've been with them. And through the movements, so we do Gurdjieff movements. So I kind of started attending movements, first of all, thinking that it was going to be easy for me. So pride already there because I do strength training, because I cycle, because I do physical work. So I thought it's going to be easy for me. I don't tend to be like that, but for some reason. And then I realized that it was a lot more difficult and it was teaching me much more than I was expecting.
Mm.
So yeah, the Gucci group movements puts you in touch with yourself quite a lot and quite quickly with whatever is going on with you. It's almost like it removes the ego tactics. It just goes straight to the point.
Mm.
So that's one of the things. But also through that, being able to be more open to my own experience and to be more authentic with other people as well. Um, so that's helped just to be in touch with my body more.
Mm. And my understanding of the Gurdjieff movements is that they're meant to be, in a way, they're a form of meditation, but they're sort of putting the body through a range of sort of motions that it's almost unusual or disjointed in some way. So you can't think about it too much. They really require you to sort of be actually present for it to work to some extent.
Yes, your attention has to be there 100%.
Mm.
And that's one of the things that I was doing. I just wanted to show up to the movements with thinking about something else, whatever I like thinking, because I like thinking, don't I?
Hmm. Hmm.
That's my playground. So I just wanted to kind of let my body do the things while I
Right.
was actually somewhere else.
Okay.
And I realized that I couldn't do that because you have to be 100% present because the movements are sometimes very difficult,
Mm-hmm.
not in terms of agility or physical
No.
capacity, in terms of the attention, because the sequence you need to be too present, and the fact that I couldn't do them because sometimes I was too distracted. I realized that I don't master my attention enough, and you have to master your attention so much to be able to do movements. So that was another blow to my pride, for
Yeah.
instance.
And I wanted to talk about the pride of sort of that head center, because I think for me, what I would equate that to, and I became a coach 10 years ago, over 10 years ago. And in the early stages of my work, there was a need to show how smart I was.
Gosh.
And that ego need for smartness was getting in the way of actually doing good coaching and being present, because if I was just present, I wasn't showing you how smart I was. And so therefore, how would you know I did a good job if you didn't know how smart I was? And having to really let go of that, and realizing that it's oftentimes irrelevant. It's nice to have the information, but now for me, it's far more intuitive. It's just allowing things to come up as they come. But that was a hard thing to let go of as a
Yes. So
head
you
type.
experienced something similar as a head type.
Yeah.
The head gets in the way sometimes. Mm.
Yeah. I think that's a really good thing to highlight, because I don't hear many other head types talking about that.
Mm. Yeah, I think we just take it for granted so much.
Mm,
Yeah, I did a little workshop about the mudras that Uranio teaches. So
mm,
I asked him permission, and he was happy for me to do it. And so I had a 5 in this workshop, and he just did not see the point of doing the mudras.
mm,
Did not see the point. He could not get into the body. So we just take it from, and it is a person who's been in the Enneagram work for a while as well. And he's very
yeah.
smart, of course, and he does a lot of thinking and reading. He's constantly reading and playing with ideas. And, get out of that is very difficult, because we're all attached to our own strengths, to our own,
Mm.
that's the area that we've been working on so much.
And
So yeah, I even just say one thing regarding the pride. The pride for me is also not to be out of control, and to be out of control is to be in the heart center all the time. For me, the movements, there was sometimes some movements that will make me cry,
mm,
and because I did not understand what I was crying, I was so annoyed and I felt so out of control. And so now I'm kind of understanding that happens,
mm.
that I'm a human being with a heart, with emotions, that sometimes these emotions get triggered and I don't know why, and it's very annoying.
Yep, I totally understand what you mean. Sometimes I cry in the middle of yoga. One time I was in the gym and I got ridiculously angry at I have no, not what. Like the physical movement creates space for the feelings to come up, but it's illogical.
It's illogical. It's so annoying. Why is it
It's
so illogical?
so annoying. So I
Yeah.
just want to clarify, if people don't know what mudras are. So they are physical poses that represent what the passion of each type looks like, and then what the virtue of each type looks like. And it's fascinating to sort of stand there and embody these movements in reality, because I think it helps us get out of the head of what we think, the concepts of the passions and the virtues, and actually physically be in them and see those sensations, and see what it feels like. I found it fascinating. I'd actually like to do more work with the mudras. So I'm glad that you're running a workshop on it. That's fascinating.
Yes, no, I think it's great, because we get lost. Even the types that are not head types, I think they also get lost in the concepts as well. I mean,
Mm,
not as much as we do, but yeah.
yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
because the Enneagram is predominantly taught in a concept-based way at the moment. Not all teachers, obviously, but a lot. Yeah.
Yes, I think we do need more body work, a lot more. That's what I was, interested in doing, work with Marion
Mm,
and the Egyptians, of course.
yeah. I I think it's very important that we figure out how to learn about the Enneagram through the body far more
Mm,
than what we currently have access to. So it's
yeah.
great to hear that those, both through Marion Gilbert and your Go G school, is helping to give you that.
Yeah, I think one big piece for me, I mean, going back to the question you asked before, was through a particular, let's say, choreography. We call it movements in Gurdjieff. So a particular movement, which is like a small choreography, like a dance, let's say,
Mm,
that when I started doing, I didn't know, but it was to do with the life of a woman. Um, so I started crying immediately. I first felt kind of angry about doing these movements. I
mhm.
thought, I don't want to do this. I felt like I had to do. I mean, you're not forced to do anything. I could step out and not do it, but I didn't want to do that because everybody was doing it. So I did these movements and I started crying. And I was feeling all sorts of emotions, things that I did not understand. And then every time we did this dance, I mean, sometimes I just had to leave because I was so overwhelmed. And so through that and some of the things, I realized that, the core of, I think for most of us, the core of the ego is to avoid vulnerability
Mm.
in different ways. And so for me, it was so clear, so poignant, and I could not see it. I could not just interpret it. I had to feel it and see it, and that's been very, very helpful. How much I avoid vulnerability,
Mm.
just to be safe. So my particular angle is to appear capable, tough, which I don't always, obviously, but this is my fantasies. To appear very strong.
Mm.
This is actual six. So I want to appear like nothing can defeat me, like nobody can touch me, nobody can affect me, no words, nothing, almost like I'm invincible. But this is to do with projecting an image of invincibility rather than being invincible, because I know I'm not. So it's not like an aid that they think they are invincible. I know I'm not, but I want other people to do so that they leave me alone and they don't attack me. So it's my way to protect myself. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I came in touch with that in a very brutal and visceral and physical way through the movements.
Mm.
And that's helping me with my clients. And it's helping me with the way I treat my body as well. So that I
Mm.
treat my body and myself now in a more nurturing way rather than just this kind of fascist way of dealing with my body and sometimes with other people's bodies, because I sometimes judge them. I mean, this is something I've done in the past. If they think that I use too much pressure, for instance. It is to do with my
Right.
shiatsu work. So I think, oh, it's such a pussy. They don't. So you see what I'm saying? The type comes with you all the time. And so
Mm.
this tendency of me wanting to be strong and judging people who appear weak, or who, obviously, in my twisted ego
Yes.
way. Mm. So yeah, this is
And so
things I'm
does
learning
that
how to
mean
make.
part of the work is not just releasing the judgment, but easing the pressure or being able to give a more variety of pressure in the massage? Is that sort of
I will always do what the person
of
feedback
course.
gives me. Okay, so I
Yeah.
wouldn't really do that, but there will be. I mean, I'm not a psychopath, obviously, but I
Didn't
will
think you were. I'm just
judge
curious. Yeah.
them. I will judge them. I will judge them, like I judge
Ah,
myself.
yeah.
If I experience pain and I cannot do this, that, or the other.
Mm,
So yeah, this has been part of the journey for me.
yeah. So, and it was always fascinating how it plays out in how we work, like whatever our chosen work is, whether it's a healing profession or something else, it brings us into contact with that ego in so many different ways.
Hmm.
And you're right, it is always there. It's
Mm.
being able to spot it in action. And I love how these movements have helped really bring you into your body more. I'm curious, how might someone who's not a part of a Gurdjieff group find out or learn more about these movements? Do you know?
I mean, in the Gurdjieff tradition, they're all taught in person.
Mhm.
And there are videos online on YouTube, but the whole point, I think, is do them in a group. And my last instinct is social, but my social instinct has really been woken up lately.
Mm.
Um, that's why I'm wearing this. Because before I would not be interested in politics. I would not be interested in doing things in group. I would mistrust groups. I didn't see the point in them. Now I think, was I crazy? And of course I am crazy, but in my own way. But do the movements in group is invaluable, because that's where you actually get most of it
Interesting.
if you do them with a group. So it's all about, your ego is gonna surface more, let's say, than if you're by yourself doing the movements.
Okay. All right. That's good to know. So before I wrap up, is there any questions you'd like me to ask you?
No, I think you've been very thorough, and I really like the way you conducted the interview. Actually,
Okay.
thank you.
Thank
And
you.
it's funny because I thought, well, I don't do much Enneagram work. As I said, I go a small group now, but I don't have much to offer. And I realized that obviously with your very skillful questioning, clearly you're in touch with wisdom of the seven and sobriety and everything and holy work. Probably. Yeah, I felt very comfortable
I'm
and I
pleased to
was
hear it.
able to actually, yes, I think I've got something to offer. Actually, I've got something to say, because I thought maybe I
You
didn't.
you really, yeah, you really do. And obviously I speak to other people who can talk more about case studies with clients, but
Mm,
it's still interesting to hear about the journey of the practitioner because anyone who's running their own business or in a healing profession is faced with their ego far more often than I think sometimes just someone in a normal, secure job. And I think
yes,
it's really important to hear from the practitioner perspective as well, because you're not just healing others, you're also healing yourself. And that's
yes,
that's just as essential to hear those stories. So, yeah. So
yeah.
thank you so much for sharing it all with me and whoever has the opportunity to watch this. So thank
Mm.
you.
Thank you, Samantha. Thank you for doing these interviews that you bring in the Enneagram into the world and